Big question: how can we protect and revive our textile traditions? Farida's eyes sparkled with excitement as she stood at the entrance of the local textile mill. The rhythmic hum of the machines inside whispered stories of vibrant fabrics, skilled hands, and the rich heritage of Nigerian textiles. Today's adventure was not just another day out with her family, it was a journey into the heart of her country's history. But as she looked around, she couldn't help but notice the worried expressions on the faces of the workers. Why did something so beautiful and important seem to be in trouble? The mill was a place of contrasts. On one hand, there were the colorful fabrics, each telling its own story through intricate patterns and designs. On the other hand, there were the signs of struggle, machines that looked old and tired, workers who moved with a heaviness that spoke of challenges far beyond the simple act of weaving cloth. Farida's father, a passionate advocate for Nigerian culture, led the way. He was determined to teach his children the value of their heritage. "This mill used to be the heart of our community," he said, his voice tinged with both pride and sadness. "But now, like many others, it's struggling to survive." As they walked through the mill, Farida noticed how the workers expertly handled the fabrics, turning threads into beautiful pieces of art. She marveled at the precision required to weave patterns. The way each color was carefully chosen to represent a part of Nigeria's diverse culture. It was more than just cloth, it was a connection to their ancestors, a symbol of identity and pride. But there was a problem. Farida could see it in the way the workers' hands shook slightly as they operated the looms. She could hear it in the discussions between her father and the mill owner, Mr. Okafor, who spoke of rising costs, cheap foreign imports, and the difficulty of finding young people interested in learning the craft. "Many of our young people don't see the value in this work anymore," Mr. Okafor explained. "They think it's old-fashioned, or they believe there are easier ways to make a living. But if we lose this, we lose a part of ourselves." The more Farida learned, the more she realized that preserving their textile heritage wasn't just about keeping a business alive, it was about keeping their culture alive. The fabrics made at the mill were used in celebrations, ceremonies, and daily life. They carried the stories of generations, stories that would be lost if the mill closed its doors. Farida's mother, who had always been proud of her Nigerian roots, shared her thoughts as they moved through the weaving section. "These fabrics are part of who we are. They represent our history, our values, and our creativity. But we must also adapt to the times if we want this tradition to survive." This idea intrigued Farida. Could they find new ways to make these traditional textiles appealing to the younger generation? Could creativity and modern techniques breathe new life into the old ways? As they continued their tour, Farida began to think about how she could contribute. She had always loved sewing and had learned some basic knitting and crocheting skills from her grandmother. She realized that the tools and techniques she used at home were the same ones the workers used here, though on a much larger scale. Her grandmother's knitting needles and crochet hooks, simple yet effective, were similar to the ones used in the mill. The yarns and threads, though different in color and texture, served the same purpose, creating something beautiful and functional. Farida thought back to the lessons she'd had at home, where her grandmother would patiently show her how to care for these tools. "Always keep your needles clean and dry," she would say. "A sharp needle makes all the difference in your stitches." Farida remembered how she'd learned to store her yarn properly, ensuring it stayed untangled and free from dust. These were small but important habits that made crafting more enjoyable and successful. In the mill, she saw these same principles at work on a larger scale. The workers meticulously maintained their equipment, knowing that a well-cared-for loom or spindle could mean the difference between a perfect piece of cloth and one full of mistakes. The visit to the mill inspired Farida to think creatively. How could she and her friends help preserve this important part of their culture? The challenge was clear. They needed to find ways to make traditional textiles relevant in today's world, especially for young people who might not see the value in them. That evening, Farida sat down with her friends, Chidi and Amina, to brainstorm ideas. They talked about the different ways people used fabrics, clothing, home decorations, accessories, and how they could incorporate modern styles into traditional designs. What if we combine these beautiful patterns with styles that people our age like? Amina suggested. We could make things like headbands, bags, or even phone cases using these fabrics. Chidi, who was always full of ideas, added, and we could use social media to show people how cool these textiles are. If they see us wearing and using them, they might want to try it too. Farida loved the idea. They could start a small project, just like they had with their crafting for the school fair, but this time with a bigger goal in mind, to help preserve and promote their textile heritage. With a plan in place, Farida and her friends set to work. They visited local markets to find fabrics, choosing pieces that combined traditional patterns with vibrant colors that would appeal to younger people. They used their sewing, knitting, and crocheting skills to create a range of products, from fashionable scarves to unique home decor items. Each product was carefully crafted, with attention to detail that reflected the same care they had seen at the mill. They experimented with different stitches and patterns, learning as they went and solving problems when things didn't go as planned. As they worked, Farida realized that this was more than just a project. It was a way to connect with her culture, to understand the challenges faced by the textile industry, and to contribute to its revival. She felt a sense of pride in what they were doing, knowing that they were helping to keep an important part of their heritage alive. The project also taught Farida and her friends about the importance of empathy and social responsibility. They began to understand the struggles faced by the textile workers they had met at the mill, and how much was at stake if the industry continued to decline. Farida's father, who had been so passionate about the visit to the mill, helped them connect with local artisans who shared their knowledge and experiences. These artisans, some of whom had been weaving and sewing for decades, were grateful for the young people's interest and eager to teach them more advanced techniques. Through these interactions, Farida and her friends learned that preserving their textile heritage was not just about keeping the traditions alive. It was about supporting the people who dedicated their lives to this craft. They began to see their work as part of a larger effort to support their community, and to ensure that future generations could continue to enjoy and appreciate the beauty of Nigerian textiles. By the end of their project, Farida and her friends had created a collection of items that blended the old with the new, showing that traditional textiles could be both beautiful and relevant in today's world. They had learned that creativity and problem-solving were essential tools in preserving their heritage, but so were empathy and social responsibility. The mill, which had seemed like a place stuck in the past, now felt like a place of potential and hope. Farida knew that the challenges facing the Nigerian textile industry were far from over, but she also knew that with determination and creativity, they could be overcome. In answering the big question, how can we protect and revive our textile traditions? Farida and her friends discovered that the key lay in innovation, education, and a deep respect for the past. They understood that by combining their modern skills with traditional knowledge, they could help ensure that the rich history of Nigerian textiles would continue to thrive for generations to come.